It's about the sustainability of your company. How can you run it and how long can you run it? And it doesn't work only with the power position, right? So it is a good technique, but with the business, we have Vaido Mikheim to help for this. And Vaido is going to join online, and he has spent his last decade figuring out how innovation and collaboration works. He has done that at Tartu Science Park, working with startup incubators, accelerators, and EU-wide cooperation projects. He has also been on and behind the stage of many events, ranging from small hackathons to large business festivals, such as Tartu Startup Day from 2016 to 2021. And Vaido knows a thing or two about incubation, mentoring, and pitching. Still, occasionally, he gives speeches about giving speeches and acts as a mentor for a variety of startup teams. And last but not least, he likes positive people and still naively wants to make the world a better place. And the presentation, like I mentioned, is next steps for teams after the project. What are the best possibilities to keep the company running? And I'd like to know if Vaido is online. Vaido?
So it seems that I am.
Yeah, we can see you, we can hear you. The stage, or in this case, the screen is yours.
Great, thank you. So good to be with you in a digital manner. Unfortunately, I couldn't come to beautiful Jurmala myself on this occasion, but hopefully there will be other occasions. So if you can see my screen, then you can give a thumbs up, or somebody can say yes in a loud voice. Okay, excellent. So the topic I want to discuss with you today is a relatively important one, because quite often in our lives we ask that, okay, now what? What should I do now? Especially if you finish a stage or phase, and after doing the Superman position or Superwoman position with the cape, then you are still left occasionally struggling with the thought that what should we do now, and what is going to happen now. So a few ideas about this one, but before we go into the ideas, let's set some context and background, and also do a few disclaimers. So if you do Google what is entrepreneurship, you get several answers, more than 10, and a lot more, to be honest. And if you do a similar search, but a little bit more precisely, and you Google how to run a student company, which is the topic today in the conference, somehow weirdly you get even more results. But absolutely tons and tons and tons of different options how to do it. And this leads me to the disclaimer. So anything and everything I say today, you should take with a grain of salt. So there is no one golden egg formula or one size fits all part. So this is absolutely great for socks, but not so good for beliefs or processes or actions. So do keep in mind that there are multiple correct paths, and there are no right or wrong answers, or no right and wrong decisions. There are simply different consequences. And anybody who has ever made a plan knows that planning is a beautiful process, and it always ends up in good results. And almost all of us are Excel millionaires, or maybe even billionaires. However, the reality is a touch more complicated. So just if you give you a very quick summary, what should you do, then you can utilize the graph on the left-hand side, or at least on my left-hand side, where you do stuff that people will pay money for, and you kind of like it as well. Or at least do try to stay away from the right-hand graph. That, however, might not be so easy always. So another disclaimer, which is really important to mention, and people do sometimes overlook it, that entrepreneurship is hard, and I mean it. It's really, really hard. It's no joke. The mortality rate of startup companies is really huge. So it's not supposed to be easy. It is a high reward, high risk game. And luckily, the pain tolerance has been growing also in society, that even if you fail, it is not catastrophic. Or as one of the speakers in the last panel said, that what's the worst that could happen? And quite often the answer is that nothing world-ending will happen. But on the other hand, still, it is not an easy road. And when you feel that it is hard, it is supposed to be hard. One part which I would like to bring out from this slide is, and I stumbled it upon doing this presentation actually, is when I went to look up what Naval Ravikant is doing these days. Then he's the co-founder of AngelList and a very well-renowned angel investor in the States, and the founder of several successful companies. And he has put together, or from his tweets, interviews, and blogs, there has been put together a kind of a book which is called Nav Almanac. And it's freely available on the link that is on this slide. And it's a really easy read, and at the same time, really valuable read. So if you have some time and interest, then I definitely recommend you to look up this particular site and read his thoughts and his views to business, to entrepreneurship, but also to life and happiness. So it's not purely dry economic reading. And another part which I wanted to share is, while planning and having a grand vision, or at least a long-term vision, are important, do not get distracted. You only need to take step by step, or move step by step. And the targets that you set to yourself or to your company should be realistic ones. So if you are able to set those manageable targets, life becomes a bit easier. It's still not simple. Entrepreneurship is still hard, but it is a bit easier. So you can feel that those targets, and your team can feel that those targets are actually achievable. And all that being said, let me still now get to the content part. That what would I do if I would be in your shoes, or even if what I would do if I am in my shoes. So almost all of those advices what I'm going to kind of share with you now, or the options that you have in your future journey and your future path, I will take them myself as well. So I'm definitely not telling you something where I wouldn't put my money on, or like where I wouldn't walk the talk. So option number one that you can do in your entrepreneurial journey is finding a coach. One parallel or example that could be taken is with sports. That I try to think really hard that if I know any top athlete who has been a long time without the coach, true, occasionally they change coaches, and there is a period of like coachless period, let's say, in between. But almost always, if you see the interviews, there is a sportsman or sportswoman and a coach. So why should a business be any different? And why do all top accelerator and incubator programs have mentors as a must or given? That if you look any kind of business support program anywhere in the world, then you could bet your hat on it that they do have mentors. And to go a little bit deeper, or the next one step further, is where could you find a coach, or who could be your coach? And this is where the path starts to kind of split into different options and opportunities. It could be your teacher. It could be a mentor from your current or previous or future programs, which you are going to go through. It could be a local entrepreneur who you know. It could be even a parent or grandparent. So there are multiple options and multiple opportunities where you could find yourself a coach. So just keep your mind open, eyes open, and see where is the match, with whom you click, with whom you get along as a human being. Option number two, each country has usually some kind of roof or umbrella organization which is guiding or boosting student and pupil companies further. the name that came to my mind first is Junior Achievement. And Junior Achievement is active in Estonia, in Latvia, and also in Finland. The links here represent the particular home pages of Junior Achievement in each country, but it doesn't necessarily need to be Junior Achievement. It can be any other noteworthy organization in your country who you could approach and ask them, so, hey guys, I'm already running a student company or thinking of founding one. What could you do for me? And I'm absolutely positively certain that they will give you feedback and guidance how to move on. Option number three, that is a bunch of letters next to each other. Those who know, they know. Those who don't know, I will give you a few seconds to make a picture, and then you can later Google it. What does it stand for? And the moral of the story being here is that you can always find the information, and you can do it yourself. You don't need to rely on anybody else. So moving forward from this slide in 4, 3, 2, 1, and to option number 4. As they say in science, that a negative result is also a result. So if you want to go on with your life and not to be a businessman or entrepreneur, that is absolutely okay. You do not need to become an entrepreneur. It is not a must-have step for you. So take it as a lesson that you learned during the Teaming Up project. Keep the friends, keep the network, keep the connections that you made, because people are always important. The people with whom you clicked, with whom you made this kind of connection, and it isn't just that you barely touch, but already like this kind of connection, then keep those and move on with your life. Do something else, experiment, be curious. The lessons that you learned during this program are applicable outside business too. They are not only entrepreneurship related. Option number 5, kind of a bit covered already with the previous options, but sometimes still somehow overlooked or forgotten, that simply talk to people. And if you are keen and curious about the entrepreneurial path or how to move on with your business, then I would recommend that talk with those people who have done similar stuff and not too long ago. Because most likely they will still remember your pain. They remember what it was to be the early days businessman or businesswoman, and you had barely few euros on your bank account, and either you had to buy the supplies or pay the salaries, and then you couldn't even dream about being successful or paying yourself a big salary. So they do remember the pains, but they also know or remember the gains. So talk to people and see what advice they will give, or what are the stories that they will tell you. And then still kind of a disclaimer by this point is also that do use your own brain, that do not forget to use the most important muscle in your body, that listen, but then still make your own decision. What is the best approach, best way to my business, my company? And this ties or brings me to the option number 6, find your own way. As I mentioned in the very beginning, that there are no right or wrong decisions. There are simply different consequences, and eventually you have to live with them. So if you do something like really, really bad or criminal and you get caught, well, likely there will be consequences and you will have to live with them. But if you do the right decisions, then you can kind of carry on for there as well. Of course, here the tricky part is that how can you make the right decisions, or how can you kind of separate what is more beneficial to you or not? And I will give a short joke here, learned from, I don't even actually remember from where I heard it first, but there is a journalist who is asking from a really wealthy entrepreneur, and keeping kind of interviewing him and asking like, what is the secret behind of your success and how you became so wealthy? And the businessman is answering that it's really easy. It's only 2 words to your readers. The journalist is like really excited and feeling that, okay, now I'm getting a good formula and also easy to use formula. That's that, dear entrepreneur, what are those 2 words? And the businessman replies, right decisions. Journalist writes it down and is a bit puzzled and then says that, may I ask a follow-up question? How are you able to always make the right decisions? And the entrepreneur smiles at the journalist and says that, again, 2 words, wrong decisions. So it's a long road. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And you will recognize the different type of decisions and different types of outcomes. And discipline, persistence, and also good work ethics will carry you far. You don't need to be the most talented or most innovative or most whatever person in the world. Life usually is kind of brings out the examples that there are always those who are more talented, who can jump longer or farther. But if you can work hard and if you have good work ethics, then this will definitely carry you far. Which leads me to my extra slide, because when I was making this presentation, then I noticed that this particular slide was slide number 13. And of course, since I'm a Sagittarian myself, and I don't believe in astrology, but I still didn't want to end the presentation with 13 slides. So moral of the story with this slide, if you even are a little bit skeptical, or if you are still occasionally reading fairy tales like I am, then be willing to tell that, yep, I still like to read fairy tales as an adult, and that's completely fine. So this is my last slide, slide number 14. Thank you for listening, and then do remember that you do not need to take all of the steps right now or at once. You just need to make the next one.
Thank you, Vaido.